After the twists and turns, secrets and lies, and players tanking their own game, we found out if the Faithfuls or the Traitors ended up victorious in the last episode of Season 3. The Traitors had one last opportunity to eliminate a Faithful, and they were looking at either Jamal, Lizette or Meredith. Even though Charla would have to be careful about trying to save Meredith, I didn't think she was going to be picked, which left Jamal and Lizette as the options, the two that might have the most friction into getting them to vote a certain way. Whichever one was left could prove to have a pivotal role in who ended up victorious. Despite being completely over the Lizette versus Meredith beef, I did laugh when Lizette walked into the breakfast room as the last Faithful. Lizette has been labelled as being a bad Faithful at times and possibly causing a distraction. While she's been wrong about Meredith being a traitor and partially wrong about Charla, she hasn't been wrong about them lying. What she sees about them being traitors is probably just the fact they're hiding something. Lizette wasn't as wrong as the other Faithfuls may think she is, because they would have been traitorous to the Faithfuls if their original plan was to end the game with just the two of them. The disappointing fact of Lizette and Meredith both still being in the game is that I wanted one of them to be banished so I could see the reaction of the other when it was revealed they are a Faithful, though it seemed like Meredith did think Lizette is a Faithful and wanted her banished for other reasons. Regardless, Meredith would probably campaign again to have Lizette banished. Jamal ended up being the latest and last victim of the Traitors. This left Charla and Coco versus Dom, Hollywood, Lizette and Meredith, or another way to put it is Charla and Meredith against the rest. I couldn't tell if Charla's new role was getting to them or they were just tired from the whole game. Charla was having trouble remembering the agreed voting plan they made with Meredith. For the mission, the players were all dressed up with somewhere to go. I thought the players were going to be taken to a casino or something. Instead, they went to a fancy dinner, but all wasn't as it seemed.
I told you. I said it, I told you.
They attempted to solve tasks as a team, which would give them a dagger. After each dagger was won, a player would need to sit out the rest of the mission. Some tasks were easier than others. In the end, they got 3 daggers, with Coco, Lizette and Dom sitting the rest of the mission out. The daggers helped them access the money to be added to the prize pot, which now stood at $93,100. Now it was about seeing who would end up with the money. Call it whatever you like, whether that's campaigning, manipulating or something in between, but there was a lot of it going on leading up to the final roundtable. Before I watched episode 10, I thought Lizette would be the first player banished in this episode, but it was looking less likely this was going to happen. Before we started hearing the votes, I said to myself with confidence, the Faithfuls are not winning. At that moment, it felt clear to me that once again the Traitors were going to win the Traitors Canada, but as the rest of the episode played out, it was clearer to me that I shouldn't have been so confident of that outcome. The first set of votes ended with 3 votes each for Dom and Meredith. I just felt that if anyone was going to flip their vote, it was going to be Lizette. She's done it in the past and she was considering voting for Dom, but in the end Lizette didn't and she stuck with her vote for Meredith. It was Coco that actually flipped, which like Lizette she's done before. This meant Meredith was banished. There was part of me that wanted to see it tied again so they would have to vote again, but for anyone except for Dom and Meredith. Meredith's banishment felt inevitable because the suspicions against her never truly went away. A slightly aggressive gameplay came back to bite her in the end. What I wasn't expecting was for Meredith's partner Charla to follow as the next banished person at the roundtable. Dom went from nearly being banished to not even getting a single vote, with Dom, Hollywood, Lizette and even Coco voting for Charla. When Coco flipped on the tied vote from Dom to Meredith, it might have signalled something to Lizette that I thought could have some bearing when it came to the Fire of Truth. At the Fire of Truth, it was no surprise to see Dom, Hollywood and Lizette choose to banish. Coco's choice to end the game surprised me, and I thought this would spell the end of her game. My thought is that you should always choose to banish on the first Fire of Truth vote, especially if you're a traitor. For a lot of people, ending with 4 players would be a red flag, especially if that player had said previously they were suspicious of 1 or 2 of the players left. Coco's choice cost her the game as Dom and Lizette voted for her, while Hollywood, who didn't seem to pay as much attention to Coco's choice as Lizette did, voted for Lizette. Things could have been so different if Coco chose to banish. Lizette probably wouldn't have voted for Coco and instead voted for Hollywood, which would then see Hollywood banished. This would then see either the game ended or Lizette or Dom banished, as I don't think there would have been 2 votes for Coco. Kevin might have tanked his game in a loud way, but I think Coco hampered her chance of winning in a more subtle way, and it all happened in this last episode. She did so well to be in this position, given Kevin tried to throw her under the bus. Out of all the players left in the final episode, Coco was the one Lizette trusted the most. Once Lizette doubted Coco, her game was done. This meant that to my surprise, the Faithfuls actually won the Traitors Canada for the first time. It was just a matter of whether 2 or 3 of them would share the prize money, though there was no mystery that the $93,100 was going to be shared between 2. With Lizette's accusation against Hollywood prior to the last episode and the conversation between Dom and Hollywood to end with the 2 of them, everyone voted to banish. Dom and Hollywood voted for Lizette, while Lizette voted for Hollywood. Even though I knew their roles, I was wondering why Dom built up his reveal the way he did. For that brief moment, it would have made me think he was a traitor. Overall, I think this was a pretty decent season. There were a couple of added elements that would be interesting to see if other editions take it up. Some of the non-English versions may have already done so, but let's see if any of the English-speaking ones do, especially the monetary aspect to banishing a traitor. At the start of the episode, Karine announced the Traitors Canada will have a season 4 and that casting is open, so I look forward to watching the next season.